Many years ago, before becoming a rabbi, I spent a year doing humanitarian aid work in Nepal with an Israeli humanitarian aid organization called Tevel B'Tzedek. And so their work was with grassroots Nepalese and impoverished communities, helping them out. But part of their mission was also to train the next generation of Israeli and Jewish leaders to serve other people, to find ways to help our world. And so they were teaching them, each one of us were there to find our place, to find what area of work we were drawn to in all the different endless ways of serving in that very impoverished country. And so some people taught English, other people led groups, men and women groups in the villages to help empower them. Others brought modern agricultural know-how. Others helped organize civic institutions within the villages. Others were doing public health education or bringing some of their own knowledge in the health sector. And it was really very powerful to see people, all of us in our younger age, everybody finding a place, and for many it became a lifelong calling. And in that crucible of overwhelming need, which is one of the poorest countries in the world, everybody found a way to bring something, whether it was helping those people whose job it was from dawn till dusk to make bricks in the endless brick kilns at the borders of Kathmandu, or those who were, again, some of the lowest caste Nepalese, breaking from morning till night, again, big rocks into smaller rocks and even smaller rocks until they became pebbles, because it was cheaper to pay people to do that than to make them in factories or in an automated process. But everybody found a way of how they could help. And decades later, you see them in Israel now and around the world, bringing that change to bear in their places. My brother, who was there with me, and he spent 4 years there, he became himself impassioned and found this knack for leadership and organizing, and he became a leader in the nonprofit humanitarian work in Israel. For me, it was a little bit different. I was coming a little bit older than the others, but as I was also, along with the other work, impassioned in teaching the other volunteers there about Judaism and spirituality, and going into those deep questions, faced with that poverty, that deep poverty, but also some of the other sides of Nepalese society, that despite this poverty, their inherent spirituality and contentness and really happiness. And to ask the questions, well, what is life about, and how do you help other people, and where do we find meaning, and what's it all about? And how do we empower ourselves and other people to continue this endless work of tikkun olam, of fixing the world? How do we keep full of the energy to do that work? And to empower others with that spirit, with belief. So the head of the program, who was a rabbi, said to me, well, you're going to be like my father, you're going to be like your father, you're going to be going to the rabbinate. And I said, that will never, ever happen. But we all find our way, sooner or later, in that process of finding out how we can do good as we can. And this is part of our calling as a Jewish people, to affect the world, to find our place. Part of what the Hasidic commentator Mea Shiloach sees in a part of our Parsha this morning, it was all about the Levites and how each clan of the Levites had a different task to fulfill in carrying the tabernacle. And so he says, well, if you look at the three clans, the Gershonites are the first clan within the Levite tribe mentioned. And he points out how the Gershonites, they carried the beautiful hides to cover the walls of the tabernacle. very heavy. But he said that, pointed out that these are the hides that really gave the tabernacle its beauty, right? It was the hides that were all around the tent. And he points out that the word for drapes in Hebrew, yiriot, is similar to the word for yira. He says they all came because they wanted to teach others what it means to feel beauty and awe in your work and in what you do, in the beauty of the tabernacle, but also even more to teach the people about awe in general. How do you go about life with awe, looking at our beautiful world and seeing its wonders? He has a little Torah where he says, well, they not only carried, according to the Torah, the hides, but also the little clasps in between the hides. And he says that in the nighttime, the light of the torches would shine off these little hooks, and they would look like the stars in the sky. And he says the Gershonites, what they wanted is people to see the beauty of the star-filled sky. They wanted people to marvel at just the harmony of creation, the stillness of the desert. And at those times in their life where we feel sorrow-filled or stuck, to be uplifted by that awe. Then he points to the second clan, the Merarites, Bnei Merari. And they carried all the most physical structures, the bars, the posts, the sockets, the furnishings, the very foundation of the tabernacle. For them, it was all about the concrete details. He says they were the ones who did and modeled what it means to do ma'asim tovim, good deeds. They tended the sick, they carried the food to the hungry, they sewed the clothes for the impoverished, and they taught others to do the same. And that was the foundation of all the society they were trying to build and to bring God into. And it was their job to create that foundation, both physically in the tabernacle, carrying the furnishings, the skeleton of the tabernacle, but also to teach the people what it means to create a society of justice and love and truth. And finally, the third clan that we read about this morning, the Bnei Kehat, they carried the holy ark itself and the utensils that were used in the sacrifices. And the ark, as we know, were the 10 Commandments. So he explains, they were the teachers among the people. They taught Torah. They're the master of the stories of our people, of the word. And they helped the people know where they come from, who they were, what their lives were about, how to bring the depth and meaning of those stories, of that wisdom into their families' lives, and to keep the traditions precious. And they were natural storytellers who shared that with other people, who brought it, who understood how to make it all come alive, to uplift and instruct. That was their place. So they each had their role, but they all served a purpose. They were all part of it. The spiritual artists, the Gershonites, the masters of the good deeds, the Merarites, those who shared traditions, who were instructors, the Kehatites. And those are just the Levites, right? And this is part of a theme of the whole book, beginning of the book of Bamidbar, and how the people or the 12 tribes are organized, and each one has a banner, each one has a place. And the census begins the whole travels through the desert. And this morning, the gifts that we read again and again, why repeat the gifts that they each brought? Because they each had something to bear, they each had something to give. Every one of us has a place in humanity, if we can find our role. As Pirkei Avot says, there's no person that does not have his or her hour, and there's no thing that does not have its place. For the Jewish people who call ourselves a kingdom of priests, as we were beckoned by God at Mount Sinai, as humanity, we each have our moment. And they all had different roles, but the priests were united in one aspect, and that was the blessing of the people. In the giving of the commandment, which is also in our Parsha, the priestly blessing that we still do Friday nights and in our service every time, it seems like it's been given to the sons of Aaron only, but Rashi says, no, this was for all the Levites. And what was it about? It was about blessing the people with peace. That's what all of it was about. And for us too, a people of priests, we hope to find our own place to bring peace to humanity and to our world. To bring our special gifts to bear in whatever way we can. And of course, it can change through a person's life, how we do this. Thinking about my brother who was on the track then, and it's a little bit different now, and still trying to find where it will come to bear in the next phase. And it can be in our professional worlds or just in our extended family, in our congregation's life, sharing wisdom and practice. But when the world is aflame, we each have the bucket of water of our own soul to put it out. And we just have to find from where we draw the water and where we put where it's best needed. Shabbat Shalom.